Hi.
Hi.
Hi Urshi, what's up?
What's up? What's
What's
up?
up? What's up?
So I just gave an
So I just gave an
introduction.
introduction.
Okay, there's a
Okay,
lot of
I
echo.
didn't hear the introduction.
Do you have
I
Do you
earphones?
have earphones?
There's a lot of echo.
There's a lot of echo.
Should I get earphones? Yeah, I do have earphones. Just give me a sec, alright?
Okay.
Okay.
I'll remove you and
I'll
then you
remove
can
you and then you
rejoin.
can rejoin.
No, be online, I get it.
Okay.
Okay.
You heard the intro?
You heard the intro?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so basically I was
Okay, so
saying that
basically I was saying that I
had heard good
had
things about
heard
the
good
film.
things about the film.
And there was all this
And there
talk
was all
about
this
how
talk
hot
about
that
how hot
actor
that
is.
actor is.
So I
So I
posted about him
posted about him
and then you
and
messaged
then
me
you
saying,
messaged
have
me
you seen
saying,
the
have you
film?
seen
And
the
so then we
film?
started
And so then we
talking
started talking
while I was
Yeah.
watching
while
the
I was
film.
watching the film.
And it just
And it just
snowballed from there.
snowballed from there.
So I think this is a
So I
discussion
think this is
worth
a
having.
discussion worth having.
Yeah.
And to give an
So what
introduction
Give an
happened?
introduction
of Snehit to
of
everybody who's
Snehit to
watching.
everybody who's watching.
If there's anyone I
If
know
there's
who's
anyone I
watched
know
all
who
the most
watched all
legendary
the most
films
legendary
ever
films
made,
ever
it is
made,
Snehit.
it is
So I
Snehit.
trust
So
his
I
taste
trust
in
his
film.
taste in film.
For me
For
personally,
me
I'm coming
personally, I'm
purely
coming
from the
purely from the
consent agenda.
consent agenda.
But Snehit can
But
bring a lot
Snehit
more
can
of the
bring a lot more of the
storytelling,
storytelling,
film
film
perspective also.
perspective also.
So we'll wait for him
So we'll
to
wait for him to
connect.
connect.
So I've got my earphones and
Okay, mic check testing. Yeah, the echo is gone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, lovely.
Cool.
Okay, so let us start this off by saying, had you heard anything about the film before you watched it?
So I'll tell you one very interesting story. So you told me we'll go on live on Instagram today, no? So what happened? I went to the gym in the morning, and the guy I train with, one of my gym buddies, he's a fitness model. He's like, dude, I saw this movie called 365 Days yesterday night because some other fitness model friend of us, female fitness model friend of us, referred the film. And he's like, what the fuck is this? Like she made me watch the film at 1:30, and she's like, he loves her so much. He takes care of her so much, like boyfriend goals and all that. Like people are actually losing it. So one of the barometers of films transcending borders and economic lines is this: when people in the gym talk about it, and like it's not just people who are just actors and people who are into films watch it, but everyone else watches it.
You have to move that
So
cable.
yeah, cool. So yeah, and I was like, this guy's watching it. I was shocked, and
And it's leaving
yeah,
that kind of impression, which is exactly what the problem is.
yeah.
Like it's making it seem like those interactions are okay. Okay, before we get into it, let's just I'll give a brief overview of what happens in the film from what I remember, because I've erased most of those memories. So if anyone has not seen this film, there are going to be spoilers. If you haven't seen it yet, please log off now. But if you have seen it, just a reminder, the overall storyline: this dude is caught up in some whatever incident where his father gets killed, and that same day he like sees some girl on the beach and like becomes obsessed with her. And then later, like many years later, he just kidnaps her and is like, I'll give you 1 year to fall in love with me because I know that you are my soulmate or whatever, some nonsense. And then he's like, I won't touch you without your consent, and then touches her without her consent constantly.
Yeah, like he basically molests her, and then he's like, I'm not gonna touch you, but you're basically molesting her.
Yeah,
Like, it's crazy.
they're sitting in this plane. They drag her from that room that she's locked in. She's kicking and screaming, and they like tie her up in this plane. And these boys are looking at each other like, oh, I guess it's gonna be guess it's not gonna be boring. And I'm like, what? Are you telling me that you abuse women like and kidnap them for time pass? And then on the flight, he just like shoves his hand down her pants and is like, oh, yeah, I know you like it. And what the fuck?
It's just crazy. I mean, he manhandles her, he molests her, and then he's like, I'm not gonna touch you because you're my soulmate. I'm like, what
It's like
bullshit, dude.
full on physical assault, dude. He literally like picks her up and throws her.
Yeah.
I'm
And
like,
she tries to get away twice, and he's like, just throws her bag. And
And she literally says, "Don't do it, let go of me, let go of me." And I'm like, how is this not full on rape? I just
Yeah.
cannot. And people are saying like,
Yeah.
this is what 50 Shades wanted to be, but it didn't achieve that. And I'm like, 50 Shades involved consent. There was a contract. They signed a contract.
Oh, I've totally forgotten that film. I forgot the whole contract thing. It's crazy.
But at least it was consensual, dude. Anyway,
Mhm.
I have
Yeah, now I remember. So
My
I'll tell you how I started watching the film. So I've been watching all these crazy, beautiful films in the lockdown. After a point, after like 120, 130 films, I was like, I want to watch some fuck all films, some shitty films. So then I started watching some very bad films, and this is how I got to know about 365 Days. And then I switch it on, and it starts off with this beautiful ocean view, and there's this, I don't know what to call it, a fort. And yeah, it's almost like a big fort, medieval fort. And so these guys are doing some gang business, full mafia scenes. And then, so have you seen there is this kind of structure to it. Although it's a bad film and all that, there is a interesting structure to it. I was watching Aaron Sorkin's masterclass on writing. So it's like, especially when you're making things in this day and age, where people can just switch off and switch on. The inciting action, what he calls inciting action, has to be in the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So that happens immediately when the guy gets shot. Like, you're like, oh my God, it's actually interesting. And
that's the most interesting part.
yeah, that guy getting shot is the most interesting part. And then he sees the vision, and it's just downhill from there.
Okay, so I saw a comment that said, by the way, to anyone who's just joined, we're talking about 365 Days of Film.
Yeah.
I saw a comment that said, "Oh, but it's love. Love is love. If you love someone, you don't kidnap them, lock them in a room, tie them up, physically assault them, and rape them in the name of love. Love has to be consensual. Just because one person loves another person, it doesn't mean you own them. They are not property. You don't get to put them in a cage." I cannot. Okay, but okay, what the hell? What are these comments? I might have to block some people, dude.
I'm getting monkeys. The guy who's sending monkeys is my friend. Those 3-4 monkeys.
No. That's okay. I'm getting some other random stuff.
Muka, who fucking Kuma. Okay, so on monkey fucking. I don't know. Some Sanjay
Yeah.
rocks. Bro,
Sanjay
what do you want?
Weird. I'm blocking Sanjay Rocks from this because okay, anyway,
He
whatever.
rocks too
Let it
much.
be. Let it be.
Yeah.
These are the
Yeah.
people, this is the target audience who needs to hear this anyway. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about this girl, okay? She is no better, dude. In between, she starts manipulating him.
Yeah, I mean, what was that whole? She wore that dress and went stripping. I don't know. I really didn't get the whole thing. Like you're being a tease. You wanna go and sleep with the other mafia don, and then he tries to get physical with you, and you slap him, and then you basically get him killed. I mean,
So I feel like this is like toxic relationship behavior where it's like I want to try and piss him off to see if he'll get pissed off. Like, does he love me enough to like stop me from doing this whatever? So I know people who are like that, and I've heard of things like that. But also, you know, when he comes and like grabs her by the neck and says like, "Oh, if you this wouldn't have happened if you weren't acting like a whore and whatever." Dude, I had an ex-boyfriend say that to me. I was at a party and I was literally just dancing, and he's like, "Oh, really living up to your name, huh? Rishi, dancing for everyone, no?" I'm like, well, at a party, bro, it's not like I'm charging money for this. And even if I was charging money for this, what is your problem? So it's like she's another level of toxic. And then when he does come and defend her, she's like, "What do you want, dude? What do you want?" What are your thoughts on this female toxic behavior?
I don't know, yaar. What I find more toxic is, so there is a there are a lot of women who went out on record and abused Kabir Singh and Vijay Devarkonda and Sandeep Reddy Vanga for this. Like people made like 10-minute videos which went viral. Like people wrote articles about it. Like the same women are drooling about this guy, and I don't understand the hypocrisy of it all. Like, see, they talk about Stockholm syndrome. This is also Stockholm syndrome, but it's even worse. That there was something else. It was much beyond that. This is basically kidnapping, and like you have to fall in love with me in 365 days. So I'll tell you one more interesting thing. So I read a lot of Murakami, right? So in Murakami, what happens is love doesn't really have logic as its foundation. Like I held the girl's hand when I was 5 years old. I love her till I'm 25, 30, that kind of stuff. And I'll go to the parallel earth and find her. So when that whole thing happened, when he was he almost had this near death experience, and he saw this other girl who probably is his soulmate and stuff like that. I was like, maybe this is interesting. There is one more layer to it. After that, it just became 50 Shades, and like it was from Murakami to 50 Shades.
I think in between she eventually consents. I think after that boat scene where he only pushes her off the boat, he only saves her after pushing her off the boat, and she's like, "Oh my God, you saved me! Here's my consent." And I'm like, so at least for me, the only redeeming factor was that consent supposedly happened halfway through. Otherwise, it was just like. And as you said, there's no that depth or the complexity of love, the way Murakami talks about it.
Yeah.
Is not showcased at all. I understand there are toxic relationships. There are people who thrive in toxic relationships. There are lots of couples who have lots of weird kinks and their own equations and whatever, which is all fine. But explore that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always had the opinion that artists should be free to do whatever they want to. I mean, like they shouldn't be censored. I mean, so what happens in India is films are censored and cut and stuff like that. You should just give a certificate, whether it's an R or a triple X or whatever you want to give, and people just should showcase movies. So there is that freedom of expression and stuff like that. So like problematic films are okay with me, but this is something else. I mean, I don't think they were going in that direction either. It was just this movie that wanted to make a lot of money by having the best thing they got right was the casting view. I mean, both of the
beautiful.
Yeah, there's no denying the fact that they dropped it gorgeous.
Yeah,
and that works for them. And Hi Manoj, hi. Thank you for sending all the monkeys. Like there is one friend of mine who's a college friend who's just sending monkeys.
Yeah, I saw. But no, I absolutely agree with you about going back to your earlier point that the same people who supposedly, shot down Kabir Singh and Arjun Reddy. See, that's again, it's a portrayal of a troubled person, of a messed up person. So I agree with you in the sense that it is a portrayal of a bad person. Now, people were saying that is a glamorization and normalization of a toxic relationship, which I don't agree with. It's the same thing with shows like BoJack Horseman, right? They all have extremely messed up protagonists, but the idea is to showcase that they are bad, but these are the reasons they ended up being bad, and these are the kind of interactions they have in life. That's okay. You're capturing the world as it is.
Yeah.
I feel like to that extent it's okay, but this I think even with Stockholm Syndrome, right? Highway with Alia Bhatt, that was a solid portrayal of Stockholm.
Yeah, that was a beautiful film.
Is escaping her reality, which is horrible. She eventually melts, and that the build up and the progression towards finally making a move on him is so gradual. This is it's Stockholm Syndrome.
So the thing about Imtiaz Ali films, there is always this poetic justice to it. I mean, with Alia's case, although she was the one who came from a richer background, she was the so it is about have-nots and have people who have a lot of things, and this guy has nothing, the truck driver. But she feels more liberated and safe with this guy compared to the outside world, and probably that was one of the reasons she fell in love with him. So yeah.
I feel like this film also would have worked if they had provided that proper justification.
The boyfriend character was such a caricature, yeah. I mean, like, you just want to have two characters and everything, every other character is a caricature. There is no depth to any of the other characters.
It was so male gazy, dude. Even that best friend that she has, they're like
Yeah.
sitting on each other's laps and like
Yeah, yeah.
women don't do that. I mean, yeah, we do
Mhm.
sometimes just to irritate each other, but like we're not like casually hanging out, sitting on each other's laps in our underwear, like talking about boys. Like it's literally like a man wrote his fantasy about how two women are friends. I'm like that
Yeah,
two women are friends in this film, and you've made that also one homoerotic something.
yeah. And what was all those shopping scenes here? I mean, I mean, like, they're just shopping and shopping. Like he's buying her sandals with diamonds on it. I'm like, what the hell was that?
It was like the beginning of the film is just montages of him getting blowjobs, and then the end of the film is shopping montages. I'm like, is this Princess Diaries? Is it three? Dude, I swear to God, I shouldn't be saying this, but like there are porn films that make more sense than this. Like just directly watch porn. It makes more sense. Sometimes.
Yeah. I watched this film, and there is this very close friend of mine who's a school friend. So I sent the link to him. Oh, you watch this. It's like, I'll disown you if I don't like it. He thought it's some great, like epic film, game changer, and then I didn't tell him anything. Then he started watching it. What the fuck is this? Like, you made me, like, instead of watching a porn for 5 minutes, you made me watch 2 hours of film. And it's basically that.
And at least porn gives you the details at the end, dude. This was not even that. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not a rom-com.
But by the way, it's based on a book, a trilogy of books. So we're gonna get 2 more of 365 days. You knew that? Is that news to you?
Yeah.
So that's why they have a cliffhanger ending.
See, I'm okay with people who are enjoying the BDSM aspect of it. I understand that it is very sexy, whatever, but you have to establish consent. That's the one mantra I want to, like, for anyone that might be joining in between this, I just want to say it again and again. The biggest failing of 365 days is lack of consent. And then, oh my God, dude, I just can't. The shopping montages. But that guy is damn hot. I just keep circling back to that. I think that's the problem.
See, I'll tell you what happened. One of the major reasons so the movie is #1 on at least like 15 countries right now. So I did some research before coming online. So like from UK to Venezuela, a lot of countries, Germany, and even India, it's like trending. And one of the major reasons is guys are finding the woman very attractive. Like they think that.
Finding that guy very attractive.
Yeah. It's that, yeah. Like it's that. It's like if they weren't that attractive. Like yesterday we were having this conversation about Jeffrey Epstein, no?
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein doing all this, and he was paying them also. Like the only difference is he wasn't a Greek god. Like he's just a fat old man, and like people are making. I mean, it's interesting to see Netflix having 2 different and varied takes on the same subject.
The other thing I was thinking of is, there was a joke that I heard a while ago that said the difference between someone being like creepy or not creepy when they approach you in a bar is like how attractive you find them. So if you find someone hot and he walks up to you, it's not creepy. But if you don't find someone attractive and he walks up to you and says the same things, it's automatically creepy. And I feel like the reason this film has done so well is because the creepy factor was completely glossed over by the most gorgeous actors
Hmm.
ever. Oh, there's one more thing I want to complain about that's very small. But this
Hmm.
dude is tall
Hmm.
as fuck. And she
Hmm.
is like one king matchbox, okay?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, do tall women not deserve hot men? I just don't understand. This is coming from a very personal place for me.
I know, I
I'm
get it. Yeah.
5'9", okay? I really don't appreciate these extremely tall men dating these extremely short women. Dude, that woman in heels that are this big barely
Yeah.
come to his shoulder. How did they even fit them in the same frame, dude? I guarantee while shooting, she was standing on a stool.
Yeah, yeah. They must have used Apple boxes. Yeah, I don't know why they call them Apple boxes. You know why? Weird question.
No, I think what they use are those crates that, like, they flip up the
Oh,
crate.
oh, okay, okay. Oh,
The
that.
boxes that fruits are sold in. I think that's why.
Oh,
I don't know.
might be. Yeah,
But
yeah.
oh my
So,
God.
see, I feel like I don't know if you can call him an anti-hero. Can we? Like he's in the mafia, he kills people, he does questionable things. Can we?
Maybe.
So
I mean,
I
there's
feel
no logic in this film, so let's call him that.
yeah. I feel like any anti-hero film works basically on the charisma of the actor. Like be it Shah Rukh Khan from Dar or any of the films. Like even Raging Bull for that matter. Have you seen Raging Bull?
No.
So Raging Bull is this Robert De Niro film with Martin Scorsese and Joe Pesci. It's a classical, right? That film, there's so much domestic violence. Matlab, it's a story of a boxer. Jake LaMotta was an Italian boxer. So Robert De Niro plays the boxer and he basically punches his wife. Matlab, imagine a boxer punching his wife. Like it's that kind of domestic violence. I feel like all these films worked because we had very charismatic actors playing those parts. Like if it wasn't Robert De Niro in his top form playing that character, like people would have lost it. I feel even Arjun Reddy or any of those films worked because of that factor the lead actors had.
I also think the writing is nuanced enough to give you an explanation as to why this person reached this point in their life.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah,
are they exhibiting this kind of anger,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which I feel like was lacking in this. Also, I have a question. You know that establishing scene where they are like, not the establishing scene, after the father gets killed, they're in that, what is it, man? They're in those two office spaces.
Yeah,
And then
yeah. They cut the scenes. Like there's a
that doesn't actually go
juxtaposition. Yeah.
that doesn't go anywhere.
Like I didn't understand that scene. You like what happened in that scene?
Yeah, I don't understand what happened in that scene either. Okay, fine, we've established that he's a gangster and he's trying to win some money back. But her side of the story didn't make sense at all. I was like,
Like
waiting,
what did she do?
now it's going to make sense. Now it's going to make sense. Now it's going to make And she was just like, oh, we are booked back to back for the next 15 weeks. And I'm like, for what? For what? What are you booked to do?
Okay, and why did she become blonde after a point?
Because she was having a makeover montage, Snehal. Get with the program.
So, like, I feel like this guy was basically living out his fantasy where he wanted to see her as a brunette, then a blonde. I don't know what he's going to make her in the
He was
next film.
catering to every possible audience, dude. That's all.
Yeah.
It's
See,
just,
like all of a sudden she's a blonde.
it made no sense at all. And then that ex-boyfriend comes back and says, oh, I'm so sorry. And, oh my God, the other thing that really pissed me off is she had that conversation with her best friend and she's like, imagine he's an alpha male with a body.
Oh yeah, of a god. Yeah.
His dick
Yeah,
was
and no body fat. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, if I'm glad you're into him. That is some consolation to me who thought you were getting raped. If they had been established sooner, literally that's all it takes to make this film less creepy is to just establish that point of consent earlier. That's it. You know what I want to do with this film? You know how like DJs remix songs? I want to remix it and just take this one scene, put it in the beginning, remove that whatever scene where she's sitting in that office because it makes no sense. and like cut out these shopping montages, and I feel like it can work. It has the components. It just needs to be remixed.
Yeah.
If you could fix
But-
this film, how would you do it?
See, I'll tell you what I would do. So I'll keep the initial fort, ocean, the murder scene it's very, it's the stuff I like people getting shot in the head, like all of a sudden. I didn't see that coming. Yeah. Martin Scorsese, I grew up on Martin Scorsese. I like people dying on screen. So, yeah, so I'll keep that, and then that scene where he sees her, and then I'll probably make him a stalker. Like, I feel like he could have wooed her even without kidnapping, because she was already in a relationship where she had no sexual attraction to the bald guy, and I don't think she was emotionally attached also. I don't know why she was in that relationship. Like, what made you think? And that guy was cheating on her. I mean, like, you're with a goddess. Why are you cheating, man? Like, what's your problem in life? Like, are you so are you so insecure that like I am with someone I don't deserve? I'm with someone who's out of my league, that I'll go and sleep with someone else, or I don't know. So
I have no idea. That's what I'm saying. They didn't establish anything. I feel like the other thing that could have done, that could have helped the film, is some backstory establishment. I mean, instead of dedicating 25 minutes to her masturbation scene, they could have established some backstory.
yeah. So then what I'll do is, so he's stalking her and she's almost attracted to him. And one day, all of a sudden, he comes and shoots the bald guy.
Yeah.
Like right in front of her.
Hero vibes.
Yeah, and then she's like, how can you kill someone? And then he's like, this is what I do for a living. This is how I build my empire. Bad guy. Bad boy scenes. Then I'm like, oh. Yeah, so that would probably...
The other thing that irritated me is that there was like one pretense of wokeness throughout the film, where she would like randomly be like, "You cannot treat me like a bag of potatoes. I am not.
Yeah.
I am not something that you can just do with me what you will." And then 5 minutes later, she's like getting dragged across the room, and I'm like, what is the situation? And then 2 scenes later, she's like dressed up like a bomb and like on a stripper pole, and I'm like, this is just. And she shows up with that lollipop, dude. Like, if you're gonna, like, she just shows up with that lollipop and she's just like, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, she was eating the ice cream. Yeah. And she's being a tease to everyone. Like, not just the lead, but everyone. His, I don't know, his right hand man, his manager, and that old guy. Like, she's being a tease to everyone.
You know what would have redeemed this film for me more? I mean, not to justify rape, like not including the rape part, but like if she was as cruel as him, then maybe. Dude, there are people who are joining now saying which movie. Hello, Macha, this started at 9:30 p.m. IST. Don't join now and ask the questions.
Yeah.
It's like if she was cruel enough to have justified something, maybe it would have worked a little bit, because I'm not saying that all women are saints, right? There are toxic AF women. She displays some seriously toxic traits. There's a lot of chaos going on.
Have you seen You? Netflix You?
No, he's that serial killer, no?
Yeah, so this is exactly what happens in season 2. So this guy is Shah Rukh Khan from Dar on steroids. Like 10 times that. Alright, so in the first series, I'm spoiling it for people who haven't seen it. Spoiler alert. So in the first series, he kills like 2-3 people and her ex-boyfriend and everything. And everyone who comes in between the girl he loves and him. And in the second series, he does the same thing with another girl. He moves to a different town. So that's his pattern. So like from the beginning, he's someone who exhibits deviant behavior. So the twist of the second season is the female is also doing the same thing. She's as wicked as this guy. She's a serial killer, and she gets pregnant, and it's like the match made in heaven. And the series ends with the serial killer female and him together. She's pregnant, and this guy falls in love with his neighbor. I feel like that's the cliffhanger ending of season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that show, all right. Like it's a fantastic show. I feel like you should watch it. So that addresses basically what you were trying to say.
Yeah. I just feel like, as if you're portraying an anti-hero, if you're portraying a negative quality in someone, make it clear that this kind of behavior is not okay. What's stressing me out about this film is that it's normalizing rape, basically. Because this is
Yeah.
exactly what happens, right? Like even with like coming to more like local societal issues, like with acid attacks. Why do acid attacks happen? Because someone said no to someone else. And this
Yeah.
film is basically showing that like it's okay if she says no, just lock her up and like slam her into the bed and buy her 3 dresses and she'll say yes. I'm just worried about that takeaway. Exactly, as Swani is saying in the comments, give toxic behavior some consequence. To me, the alternate ending would have been he says, "Oh, you have 365 days to fall in love," and then the whole montage is just her ignoring him for 365 days, and then she's like, "Bye."
And she just walks away.
Yeah.
So there is this YouTube channel called How Movies Ended.
Huh.
So they end the movie in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So
That
so,
would be
so
my
this
movie.
this is a plot for that. Like I waited for 365 days. Bye.
Exactly. Just,
Yeah.
oh my God. I feel like, however, and okay, see, there's also the other one I was thinking of is Beauty and the Beast, okay? That's
Yeah,
also
yeah.
a little bit of a whatever, someone is trapped in someone's house and eventually she
Mhm.
falls in love with him and all. But she falls in love with him because he exhibits niceness, right? Like he shows his qualities and he like improves on himself and he gets better. It's also problematic, but like it has some soul in the sense that he develops as a human being and then
Yeah.
she like starts to notice and she's like, okay, actually he's really kind, he's doing all of these sweet things. That also could have happened. But the only
Yeah.
thing that they gave this film was that he bought her clothes and shoes.
Yeah.
And then he only
So-
pushed her into the ocean and he only saved her. What a hero.
So the thing with Beauty and the Beast is, so you expect someone to be this bad, and that person turns out to be this bad.
Yeah.
So you kind of, that expectation and reality is kind of bridged, and you kind of see them as something different, and
They could have
that
done
kind of yeah. I mean, like he's not nice at all, yeah. Like he's just a dick throughout. Like there is no redeeming quality to him, and like see, I mean, both of us are actors. Like if we got the script and you just read the script, it's just one layer. Like there is no layer to it. Even the girl and even the it's very difficult to find layers in the writing. It's just a caricature of a mafia don.
Dude, I'm telling you, remix time. Remix it and make it into a short film, 20 minutes,
Yeah.
upload it on Pornhub, and end of story.
Yeah.
Enough. Let's just call it what it is. Also, Dhwani said a very interesting thing. She said Beauty and the Beast was released in 1991. I mean, that's true, right? It's been freaking 20 years. Like, how have we not updated the storytelling? I think what also, man, it just irritates me so much that, okay, fine, there are problematic movies, there are discussions about problematic movies, there are problematic characters, discussions about that, whatever. But this film, just based on how hot those actors are, has managed to gloss over layers and layers and layers of problems. Like, what does that say about us as humanity, dude? Like, how shallow are we?
Yeah. So that is something I was wondering today. So if women are liking it, does this mean there is this dormant desire to be treated the way she was treated? or like I'm talking about the women who are liking it and like boyfriend goals and going to that extreme. Like, do they have a dormant? I mean, is our conditioning so strong? Like, we've been conditioned through ages, like since men picked up women in caves and took them in to today, that it's come through generations, and that is still in the genetic code. And I mean, I get why boys like it, because I mean, it's kind of like the whole film is like a fantasy. It's a sexual fantasy, of course. But I don't understand how women are liking it, especially the educated women. I mean, I don't think the poor women are watching that. I mean, women in villages and who don't have access to Netflix, I don't think they're watching it. I don't think it has transcended those borders. But I feel like you can say something about this.
I think one thing that I was thinking about while you were mentioning that point is that, see, there are always going to be people who enjoy being subservient or dominant. Like that kind of dom sub thing is very well established, not only in the BDSM community, but generally also. Like, there's always in any sexual interaction, there's one person that's kind of leading and there's one person that's following. Like that I feel like is a different level than what this was. And I also think that one thing I appreciate, and this is something I spoke to someone who is like deep in the BDSM community, and she was saying that in the BDSM community there is like an understanding that everything has to be done, like it has to be decided kind of before, like this is the extent to which I'm willing to go, and they have these safe words. So whenever you reach a point where you're uncomfortable, you have a safe word and everybody stops. And that's one thing I appreciate about 50 Shades also. They established a contract, they established boundaries, they established that kind of, this is a BDSM scenario. And there are also people who are into the whole rape fantasy thing. That I've read a script actually where someone wanted to cast me in that, where they were playing out a rape fantasy and something went wrong. So I can still understand that, but I just there has to be an acknowledgement that this is what it is. Rather than saying this is normal behavior, you have to say this is a BDSM whatever situation and consent has been established, boundaries have been established, or this is a role play scenario which has been established ahead of time. But this whole concept of like, I can just pick up a girl from the road, literally put her in a cage, throw her on a bed, and she'll fall in love with me, that is dangerous.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a thought I had from a long time. I mean, like I grew up in the 90s, all right. I mean, we had role models like Michael Jordan, Sachin Tendulkar, Shah Rukh Khan, people like that. And like we grew up on such movies. And I feel like the stuff you watch has such a deep impact on your future life decisions. I mean, it kind of shapes who you are. So, like, if someone who's in their 14-year-olds, if they're watching it right now, and the kind of impact it has on them, I don't know where it's gonna take them. It's very dangerous.
Yeah. There's some interesting comments here from Dwani, who does a lot of work in the mental health space. So she says, interestingly, this is because from early ages, women weren't allowed to explore or express or live out their sexual fantasies. So I guess, it's like forced out of you. I think that's one aspect. So there's a huge misunderstanding that people mistake passion and urgency for aggression and that choke me daddy kind of kink. Normalizing and portrayal of women responding positively to it. Don't generalize it, which is what 365 Days did. Exactly. Even, see, that's the thing. I've actually had a very difficult conversation with someone who was molested as a child. Okay, she was molested from a very young age, multiple times by multiple people. And she said that there was one aspect of that because it happened to her so early on in life, as you said about these formative ages, that there was a part of her that liked it. And so when she was in therapy, she had to also deal with the guilt of, why do I like it?
Yeah.
Like, I know this is wrong. I have finally come to terms with the fact that what happened to me was not okay. But is there something wrong with me because I liked it? So I think maybe Bunny is talking about that, where historically we've just come to terms with the fact that women have
Mm.
kind of just been owned in some way,
Mm.
and that you just have to submit yourself to whoever owns
Mm.
you.
So, since I'm doing this film on serial killers and stuff, so I did a lot of research in people who exhibit deviant behavior. So, like, be it Edward Kemper, you know Edward Kemper, right? And Ted Bundy. So Ted Bundy was basically dating this woman who is out of his league, and then he broke up. She broke up with him or something, and then he had a heartbreak, and he basically went out and killed 41 women who are basically her shadows. I mean, women who look like her and were highly educated, came from the upper class. So all these people, I mean, even when I was watching Jeffrey Epstein's documentary, I feel like there's something in their childhood that has impacted them so much. Like they were either sexually molested or assaulted, or it was something else. So I also saw this documentary where, see, when you're sexually assaulted as a kid, you're in the dominant and the recessive. So you're in the other side. So you basically want to be on the other side.
Yeah,
You're
want to see
you're the victim. So you want to flip the side, and you want to feel more powerful. So these people who kind of go after power, like throughout their life, people are chasing power. They want to be more powerful. They want to sleep with more women. They want to be at a position where no one is gonna tell anything to them, and they want to exploit everyone and get away with it. So they are coming from somewhere. Like if you do a psychological profiling of these people, I mean, if we are talking about Jeffrey Epstein, like he's such a narcissist. So if you do a psychological profiling of him, it comes from somewhere. And even with Ted Bundy. So Edward Kemper was a serial killer who's 7 foot. All right, I don't know if I spoke about it. He's a 7 foot serial killer who basically killed his mom.
smiling because he's tall. I am part of the problem.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, 7 feet murder me, Ted Bundy. I fell into the trap. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So Edward Kemper is this huge Kali-like guy. Like he's 7 foot and like he's probably like 150, 160 kilos. So he chopped off his mother's neck and like he did sexual acts with her neck. I mean, like this guy could have killed anyone. Like he's so intimidating, he's so physically powerful. Like for him to kill someone who's so powerless, and like people are coming from somewhere. I mean, like if you go deep into their psychology, so that's what the FBI did in 1970s, I think. So in order to catch serial killers, they did a psychological profiling of all these people.
Yeah.
So they interviewed these people and kind of seek their help to catch other serial killers.
Yeah. I've been on a podcast called Serial Killers also, where they do a psychological analysis of how they end up being becoming serial killers. Almost all of them have childhood abuse, childhood neglect, severe poverty, and as you said,
live with their moms.
Yeah, it creates a desperation for power, and that plays their lives.
And they don't have good father figures in their lives. There's a lot of, there is this very interesting research that happened that like kids with higher testosterone levels, I don't know how much of it is actually proven. Like this is a hypothesis of sorts. So what happens is babies with higher testosterone levels tend to be like they have a higher tendency to become psychopaths. And if they're subjected to all this, I mean, sexual abuse as a kid, no father figure, poverty, and all this, the chances of them becoming a psychopath is even more. I mean, I'm not saying, like they say, all psychopaths are not serial killers, and all serial killers are not psychopaths. So it's that need to account for all the mental. So someone is saying something. Yes, Snehat, we need to account for all the mental regression a man must have gone through to get a particular behavioral pattern. It doesn't condemn what they do, what that needs to be.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly what we were talking about earlier, which is like, if you establish some sort of backstory and explain why he became the way he became, then at least there's a chance of empathy. There's a chance to create empathy of someone who is struggling and portray them as someone who's gone through some shit and they're perpetuating bad behavior. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if there was a little bit more time spent in establishing their previous relationships, I think with a girl a little bit, they established that she was in a bad relationship, which is why maybe she gravitated towards this guy, because he was everything that her ex was not. Like, her ex was clearly not. He didn't want to hook up with her when she first came back home. So maybe she was dating someone who really wanted her. That's another thing with like this whole concept of wanting to be wanted.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're not sure where things are going, you want to know that someone like wants to be with you that badly. Like, I know people who think of that as love. Like, I've been in relationships where this guy was like so extra and so like needy and clingy, and like being around him was exhausting to me. But to him, it was like, I just want you to know how badly I want you. And there are women who want that. There are women who do not want to be with someone unless they are like dropping everything to be the first priority, for them to be the first priority. So maybe there's a little bit of that also, which I think was established on her side. But on his side, other than his dad getting killed, like, where does that entitlement come from? Like, he's just a boss, so he can do whatever he wants.
Urushi, do you think if we rewatch the film, which is a very difficult task, do you think there might be something to it? Like if we really want to look, I mean, this is the thought that just came to me. So when he's getting killed, like right before the dad gets killed, he's looking at that woman in the binoculars, and you kind of establish the fact that like he's a spoiled brat and stuff like that, and like he's not serious about the family business, which is the mafia and stuff like that. But then he also has the dialogue where he's like throughout my life, all I've done is like taken things by force. It is very difficult for me to wait, and he's saying something. So there is probably like here and there you can find
like glimpses.
Glimpses of the movie trying to be more than what it was. Is it a studio film? Is it a big studio film, or is it a? Do you know about that?
Don't know. All I know is it's a Polish production. Is all I know. That's it.
Yeah. So what happens is, if it's a big studio film, the director doesn't have a final say on the final cut.
Yeah.
So he shoots the film, things happen, and the studio basically cuts the film with all the data they have. They're like people on Netflix are liking this. They like sex. They like BDSM. We'll put more of that. They like shopping. We'll put more of that. They have algorithms. They have all these data scientists working day and night on this. So probably the studio kind of came in after a point and did this to the film, or maybe the director wanted to say something else. I don't know. If I watch a film or two of the director, I'll probably have more insight into this. Or maybe it's just a train wreck and the director intended it to be a train wreck. I don't know.
Who knows? But that's a very valid explanation. There's so much that happens between writing and shooting and editing and releasing that you never know where, everything changed direction. So I think you're absolutely right. I think maybe there is merit to watching it again. I think the shock of it the first time was like too much for me to absorb a lot of things. There was beyond a point. So I've had a relationship that was during a very formative time in my life when I was like 19, where he did not take no for an answer. So for me, like, I have been in a situation where someone has just taken what they wanted from me and I had no say in it at all. So for me, it became very difficult to watch it. So there were definitely times when I was like letting it play in the background, but I was messaging you, I was messaging Dhwani, I was messaging another friend, and like kind of staying one step away from it. But maybe now, especially because I was expecting something completely different. I was expecting, as Dhwani said earlier in the comments, it was categorized as romance. So
Mhm.
I had like one nice ice cream from Corner House and I, full ready for one nice romantic film. And it just
Yeah.
completely caught me off guard. So maybe
Mhm.
now knowing what's happening and
Mhm.
looking for those
Yeah.
signs, clues, I might get a better
Mhm.
understanding of it, as you said. That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about this because of the whole Snyder Cut thing. You know what's happening with the Snyder Cut, no? Okay. So Zack Snyder, who basically made Man of Steel, uh, Batman v Superman, Justice League. So what happened was he had almost shot Justice League, and his daughter died. I think she committed suicide or something, and like he was like shattered, and he's like, I can't shoot the film because I'm too disturbed. And they bought Joss Whedon, who had made Avengers, and he shot some fuck all footage, and he made the film something else, and the studio meddled, and so the film became a train wreck. It was the biggest film of the year with $200 million, with all the superheroes coming in. But the movie didn't work in the box office. So now they're spending 30 more million and releasing the Snyder Cut, which was the original cut Zack Snyder made on HBO Max. So, like, I've been following the whole Snyder Cut thing, and I felt there might be something to it. That
Yeah,
the director intent, yeah, because there are glimpses of good storytelling here and there. There are glimpses of the film trying to be more than what it is, uh, and then it just comes back to
yeah.
365 days.
I also feel like there are so many scenes which seem so abrupt, like the
Yeah.
shopping montages, like the
Uh,
establishment of her in that office. I feel like
mhm.
there was a lot more that ended up
Uh,
getting chopped.
yeah, yeah.
As you said, there
Yeah.
was probably more to it because
Uh, uh,
I mean, why even establish a scene if it does not connect to the rest of the film at all? So clearly that was
mhm.
meant to go in some direction, and it
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
got cut by someone somewhere.
Uh, okay, Urushi, did you notice this one scene where he's in the car and he's getting video calls or like photos from the blonde Anna?
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm like I couldn't really connect the dots of that scene. Like I feel like that was in a different timeline and where she was still a brunette, and then the timeline where she was a blonde was different. I don't know what was happening with that, and like he was cutting the call or something, or was it the same woman? I don't know.
There was something that was so what I gather on that storyline is that
Hmm. Hmm.
Italians are not allowed to marry non-Italians. So he sort
Okay.
of ended up marrying or getting together with that girl. And later
Huh.
towards the end, he says
Hmm.
to the main lead that
Hmm.
it was no secret that I had been looking for you because portraits of you were always hung up on my wall. So she
Oh, okay,
knew
okay.
about you and she knew that you
Huh.
existed. So this can't be a
Huh.
surprise to her. So I have a feeling
Okay.
it's like some Zabardasti scene where he tried ending it with her and she wasn't, she wasn't getting the hint, she wasn't
Okay.
going away.
Mm-hmm.
And then she shows up
Mm-hmm.
and says, oh, I'll kill her or whatever.
Hmm.
So I think, I don't know, maybe that's to establish like, oh, I have so many options, but I chose to kidnap and assault you, baby.
Yeah. Urushi, what are the other films you found problematic?
Oh, are you ready for a TED Talk?
Yeah. Go on.
Actually, where to start, man? Where to start? I've just been so absorbed in this one for so long.
Hmm.
I don't know now. I have this tendency when I don't like a film to not remember it. So
Okay.
it doesn't stay in my memory. So when I like a film, I tend to remember the details and hold on to it and revisit it. But with films I don't like, I just sort of switch off. So I'll have to go and look at my IMDb list and see what I've watched and see what I didn't like.
Yeah, I mean, the one major problem I had with Telugu cinema was, I'm not generalizing, but there were a lot of major big star films, and the objectification was so bad in the film. Like, have you seen some of the Telugu films?
No,
No?
I don't have the guts to watch. I
Like
hear
all these Hindi dub Telugu films, Khiladi 152, 345, मैं तुझे मार डालूंगा 1, मैं तुझे मार डालूंगा 2. No. मौत का सौदागर. मौत का सौदागर returns.
It just irritates me so much that they get so much money, dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
Zabardast Khiladi. Zabardast Fighter. Like all these films. And
these all sound like they should be typed on t-shirts, dude.
yeah. So I stopped watching TV now. Like I don't switch on TV. So when I used to watch TV, I like all these films. So the heroine doesn't have anything to do in the film. She just comes and is objectified. All right, there is this introduction scene where she's objectified, and then there is the scene where the hero tries to flirt with the girl, where it's the same, and then she comes and dances in 2-3 songs, which are basically item songs, and she's done. She's done. Like she has like probably a 15-day schedule. They probably pay her a good amount, and she's out.
Yeah.
And all these heroes are big stars, and there are at least like 2-3 women leathers in one film.
Oh
Like
yeah.
2-3
I've
heroes.
noticed in
Yeah,
Kannada movies also. I noticed this in
yeah,
Kannada movies.
yeah. I mean, like the objectification is so bad. I mean, and this has been happening for ages, like 30-40 years. I mean, the kind of effect that has on the mind and the conditioning that does to young minds is very dangerous. I mean, they probably feel that women just come and
Right, right.
it's a very regressive approach to have. That's why I liked Arjun Reddy. Although it's a Telugu film, it is not a proper Telugu film where she just comes and dances and item songs. There is no objectification of sorts. I feel like they objectified Vijay Devarkonda more than they objectified the woman.
Yeah,
What do you think about that?
I will agree that there is definitely like this is going to sound bad, but she's not. Oh shit, we only have 22 seconds remaining. Oh my god. Okay,
Yeah.
but I agree with you. And to
Yeah.
wrap up, one film that I
Hmm.
like that's in contrast to this is Artist, which is a Malayalam movie where the girl recognizes his toxic traits and she walks away. So check
Yeah.
that one out. 7 seconds remaining.
Great.
Oh my god, thank you so much for joining, Snail.
All
Sorry
right.
to
Bye bye.
interrupt.
See you.